Hello, welcome back to my crystal collection video series. Today we're going to be going over all the specimens that start with C. So very exciting stuff because I have a lot to show you. So let's just begin. So the first specimen I have here to show you is this cactus ametrine specimen. So it is a variety of quartz. And what it is that it's quartz crystals that's been encrusted by a second generation of smaller crystals grown on the prism faces. The small second generation crystals point away from the prism and they're like separate, right? They're just, you already have a crystal and then it basically starts to grow secondary growth, right? On the outer layer, essentially. And it's an ametrine because as you can see here, there's a light purple color to this, but you notice there is a very distinct honey color that seems to be within the crystal. Well, that's the first generation, right? So the first crystal was actually a citrine, and then it grew amethyst quartz on top of it as its secondary encrusted crystal, right? So yeah, just really neat because a lot of the time cactus quartz is either clear or very light amethyst, sometimes smoky. But in this case, it was a citrine that, had a second generation layer of amethyst over top of it. So it is essentially an ametrine. This is sometimes called spirit quartz, sometimes pineapple quartz, but it's basically all the same thing. The majority of them come out of South Africa. However, you can find them. They are available sometimes from Spain or Sudan. I think maybe the Congo as well, but yeah, so that's where it mostly, presides. That's where most of this is found. So yeah, really cool. So we're going to move on to my calcite specimen A. So it's not my only calcite specimen, obviously. However, this first one is just your regular basic calcite. That's yellow, right? Yellow calcite. It might look like there's some sort of like polish on it, because calcite's very waxy. It's natural though. This is just how it forms. So there's no polish. It just has that waxy look to it. So yeah, this is a nice big chunk. Then I have calcite specimen B, which is also yellow calcite, but you can see the different in grades of quality, right? The first one is just your basic average calcite piece, and this is obviously gem grade. Like, it's absolutely stunning and beautiful, and this is not faceted. It looks like it's faceted. It's not. This is, again, all natural. So you got all these beautiful rainbows in it that you can see here. Then I have calcite specimen C. So this one's interesting. So this is like an opaque calcite. It is full of inclusions causing this sort of zebra effect. In fact, it's mostly called zebra calcite by, marketing terms. So not official terms, just marketing terms. But you can still see the waxy sort of sheen on the surface of this. It's all natural though, it's not been polished. And then I have calcite specimen D. So this one is a brown calcite, but it's not as gemmy as a high grade, but it's still gemmy, a lot more so than the first specimen of calcite that I showed. It's somewhere in between, because it is quite see-through. In fact, you can get some rainbows out of it too as well. And yeah, it's just interesting, and it has that waxy sort of look to it as well. This one in particular actually UV reacts, so that's also pretty cool. And it's just a chunk of it. Alright, so the next is this calcite with prehnite growth specimen. So this variety of calcite is sometimes referred to as landic or optical calcite because it boasts an optical effect. So when you look through it, you get this effect of seeing double. So images appear double. The reason why it's sometimes referred to as Icelandic is just because it was first found in Iceland. It's not limited to Iceland though. For example, this piece in particular, this comes out of India. And then you also have the prehnite growth, which is this. And you may think prehnite is green. Well, yeah, prehnite is green. And this actually has a tint of green. It's just very subtle that I don't even know if it's going to pick up on camera because it's that subtle. But it is prehnite, and yeah, just a cool piece. Then moving on to this calcite with pyrite growth specimen. So this may appear to be so different from what I've shown before when it comes to calcite. Well, calcite is such a variety mineral. It's commonplace, but like there's so many variations of its form and of its colors and of its quality that yeah, it can look very different from each other. But yes, this is calcite. It's called bladed calcite, the form anyways. And as you can see, the sparkles, that's the pyrite growth. And I liked it. I saw it and thought of a bouquet of flowers, and I thought that was really pretty, so I picked it up. Then up next, I have this cavensite on quartz with calcite growth specimen. So the cavensite is obviously this blue mineral here that's been growing, and it's just such a pretty vibrant blue. This is natural, by the way, all natural. It can be hard to tell between cavensite and pentagonite because they look very, very similar. And are very, very similar, but the difference is cavensite, when you shine a flashlight on it directly, it would appear more to be a greenish blue than the pentagonite. Pentagonite is pure blue, and that's how you can tell the difference, essentially. Then you got the quartz druzy surrounding it, but also the calcite growth, which you might not be able to tell because I didn't even know until I put or shined a black light on it, and the calcite UV reacted. So it's just sort of somewhat dispersed within this sort of druzy. There's a few calcite growths as well. So I just want to say the next three minerals, crystals, whatever, I'm going to show you look different, but they are the same crystal. So trust me on this. And we'll start with my first one, which is the Celestine Specimen A. So this is usually not what you think of when you think of Celestine, but you're probably thinking of the blue Celestine, which is Celestine. It's not mislabeled. It's just the same crystal. It just looks different, like vastly different. This is a much older specimen. Like, it was mined in 1984. And I actually got this, luckily enough, from someone who was selling off some of M&G Bachmann's collection. So this is a museum piece. I even have the original tagging that was used by Bachmann himself. So yeah, definitely a really interesting, awesome piece to have in a collection, having a museum piece of someone's private collection that's either donating it away, not here anymore, or you know what I mean? Yeah, so awesome. And this is, yes, it's Celestine from Poland. So yeah. And you'll notice a difference what I mean if you don't know what I mean when I say Celestine and you're just like, okay, so what's the other ones look like? Well, I have one of them, the blue one, and it's the Celestine Specimen B. And see how different it looks to each other? That they're the same crystal. I know, crazy. Like the word celeste is meant to signify the blue sort of color of Celestine, but the composition and stuff like that is the same as this sort of golden sprayed looking Celestine. So they are the same crystal, even if they look vastly different. So yeah, this is what people typically think of when they think of Celestine or Celestine. I don't know how it's pronounced actually, but whatever, that doesn't really matter. All right, and the next one is going to be interesting. So the next specimen is the Celestine on sulfur specimen. So this is again vastly different from the first two. I mean, closer to the first one, but it still looks vastly different. And look at these beautiful clear crystals. Oh my god. Chef's kiss. I love this piece. And we got the sulfur that it grew from, which is awesome because for a while I've been looking for real sulfur. The market's been flooded with all this lab grown sulfur. So just by the way, be careful, watch out. If it looks like this, I'm going to show it on screen. That's lab created. It's not naturally made. It's man-made, right? So man-made crystal right there. And the market's just been flooded with it. So it's been harder to find actual sulfur crystal. But this does boast sulfur crystals. So yeah, happy about that. All right, up next is this very small but pretty cerussite specimen A. So cerussite is another crystal that has different forms, and so it may look different from each other. So you'll notice that when I bring out my second piece. But yeah, this is just a small cerussite where it's white, definitely a white, not clear or smoky like you sometimes see with it. And it's what's known as twinned cerussite, so it has sort of like a secondary growth kind of projecting from the middle outward, right? So it's like it's twinned. It's like a little butterfly. This one comes from Italy, I know that. And yeah, just a little small piece of cerussite. To go along with my second cerussite specimen B, which is this thing. And I love this piece so much. Look at that gloss. Look at that shine. Like the sparkle. Oh, the way it catches all the rainbows. I love it. The smoky luster. Beautiful. So this is also cerussite. So it does come in many forms. It's a little bit more rare of a crystal because it is a common crystal, but when you look at it, most of what's there is not high quality enough to even sell on the market. So most of cerussite that is in the world is such low quality that they don't bother. So to get high quality cerussite is pretty awesome. Also, just to note, be careful depending on where you live if you want to collect cerussite, because it's been known to shatter if it gets too cold. So if you live like I do, I live in the north of Canada, so it's cold here. I live on the coast, so it's not so bad, but say if I was living in, the middle of Canada up north, I'd have to be very careful about, keeping the temperature, at a certain level. So just to put that out there. So moving along to this chalcedony specimen A. So you might be thinking to yourself, wait, that looks very similar to grape agate. That's because it is, except grape agate is not an agate at all. It is just botryoidal chalcedony. And in terms of my specimen collection, I like to stick to scientific names and official names, not marketing names. It just, yeah. So I label them through the scientific sort of labels, right? And stay away from the marketing terms. So yeah, just a chalcedony. So it's just botryoidal chalcedony from Indonesia, because this is the color that comes out of Indonesia when it comes to chalcedony. It can come purple or just green. However, this is like a multicolored of purple, green, and a little bit sort of pinky here. It's very pastelish more so, right, than some others that you find. But yeah, so this is my chalcedony specimen A. And next I have another chalcedony specimen B, and it is quote unquote grape agate, but it's purple. And it's, again, not actually an agate. So again, chalcedony specimen B. So I got this one just because I liked the color of this one, and I liked the contrasting, having them both in my collection. Yeah. And not to be outdone with this one, which is another chalcedony specimen, this time C. And what does that look like to you, huh? Yeah, it's very phallic. That's because it is a stalactite, meaning that this formed in caves when mineral water was sort of dripping down onto the cave. It, has all those minerals inside of it, and it just starts to form this crystal because of that. And that's what this is. So, yeah, this is a really nice phallic piece to have in my collection. And then my next specimen is this Chalcedony specimen D. So this one's really cool though. This one, like, look at the form of it. You know, it looks like little tiny spindly worms within, right? It's got such an interesting form to this. This one comes out of Mexico. And yeah, it's just like this round ball of squiggly worms. Okay, so next is some more chalcedony, but this time it's with rhodochrosite growth specimen. So this is a very deep, dark, juicy rhodochrosite, very, very sparkly. And as you can see, this is a little bit botryoidal, the blue chalcedony here. And it's just a lovely piece. I love rhodochrosite when it's this gemmy and sparkly. And then next I have another chalcedony with stilbite growth specimen. So it's a little different. This one's also a stalactite. And you can see, if you remember my previous video with my apophyllite and stilbite, you can see the stilbite here, this little pink growth coming out of it. That's the stilbite. So yeah, nice and sparkly. And then I have this chalcopyrite with galena inclusion specimen. So pretty cool looking. It is a major ore of copper and common in sulfate veins and disseminated in igneous rocks a lot of the time. It has this sort of brass yellow undertone, but often with an iridescent tarnish, right? This mineral has that. And as you can see, this tarnish makes it look super colorful and pretty. And then you can see here the galena inclusions that are within the mineral peeking out. Yeah, and so, yeah, very cool looking. I love the look of chalcopyrite. It's also weathering may lead to the formation of like other minerals such as like malachite, azurite, and you know, other secondary copper minerals. So, yeah. Then my next specimen is this chrysocolla with malachite growth specimen. So chrysocolla is a like malachite and all that, azurite, is a secondary copper mineral. So it's usually found in like these bubbly botryoidal sheets, and yeah, but also just rounded masses, but also as vein fillings. And this is like a vein filling within a rock. The malachite growth here is also very gemmy, right, due to the secondary growth factor, right, with the chrysocolla. It has turned it into this sort of more druzy-like material. So hopefully you saw my first tower video where I showed off my mini citrine tower. And if you recall me telling you that I was going to show you what real Kundalini citrine as a specimen looks like, well, here it is. So this is my citrine specimen A. As you can see, again, the honey color, it's got like the first big point with little tiny points sort of surrounding it. This is what Kundalini citrine looks like. This one actually boasts a really nice rainbow. I don't know if it's going to come up, but hopefully it does. And yeah, just gorgeous. This is citrine is rare, so it is pricey. And you'll most likely find the Kundalini citrine as specimens. They're not going to be carved, right? And it's still going to be expensive, and yeah, even though there's no carving to it. But it's well worth it if you find some nice Kundalini citrine. The pockets of citrine there are very sparse, so it just really depends on what they can find, right? It's all up in the air when that's going to run out. Who knows? Because it does take a long time for citrine to become citrine from a quartz or whatever, because it needs to have that irradiating process for it to turn that to that honey color. So, yeah. And then I have my second citrine specimen B. So there's, see how similar they are. So they all usually start with a big, you know, quartz looking point surrounded by smaller points. That's how they're typically grown in the Congo, this Kundalini citrine. So yeah, those are my two citrine specimens. And next, excuse me, I have another interesting one that's kind of like calcite, but not. It's its own special mineral, and that is my Kubuto calcite with heterogenite and malachite growth specimen. Hard to say. So, Kubuto calcite is a type of calcite that is mixed with cobalt, which is what gives it its very luscious pink coloring. This is just a little bit of a druzy of Kubuto calcite, but you can see this sort of black parts and inclusions. Yeah, that's the heterogenite, which is an iron oxide mineral, right? Then if you look real close, you can see that sort of green tint to this area. That's the malachite inclusion. And you can see in with this, you know, matrix rock where those inclusions are on the matrix rock, right? So yeah, really cool. All right, then I have this copper specimen. I hope everyone knows what copper is. And this is a specimen of said copper. A lot of the times in mineralogy and whatnot, in geology, they like to separate the terms and where the specimens are referred to as native copper. But I mean, I'm not an industrialist or whatever, so I'm just going to call it copper. So yeah, this is a copper specimen. And I also have this copper with calcite and chrysocolla growth specimen. As you can see, it looks a little different because it has that growth. Remember I was saying that chrysocolla is a secondary copper mineral? Well, that's because it is created like in where copper is located. Hence why you sometimes find native copper with its growth, right? Chrysocolla growth. And that's this blue stuff. And a little bit of calcite is right here. So it looks like a little bit of a monster, but I don't know. Especially when I display it, it looks kind of like it's trying to crawl. I don't know. Pretty funny. Okay, so we're at the last of the specimens for this video, and the last one hurts my soul, and I will explain. So, the last piece I have is this cuquimbite specimen. You probably haven't heard of cuquimbite. Even rock enthusiasts probably haven't heard much about cuquimbite. It is extremely rare. And I purchased this not realizing something that is very necessary, in which I think that the place I purchased this from really should have been, you know, full on giving all the information necessary, which it did not. It had nothing on it. Because this mineral or crystal, whatever, is extremely hard to take care of properly. And so it didn't look like this when I first purchased this, by the way. This is what happens after some incidences. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I live in a temperate rainforest, okay? So it's really, really wet here. This comes out of Chile, by the way. And it's a beautiful purple. It was a beautiful purple anyways. Now it's got like this orange sort of coating. But yeah, I'll explain further. So I live in a temperate rainforest. There's a lot of precipitation, right? Well, when it comes to this sort of mineral, you have to maintain its stability, you have to keep it in a airtight closed case, and you have to make sure the temperature and the humidity is at a very specific level. If it's a little bit too wet, as in it's a little bit too humid, a little bit too much precipitation, it starts to dissolve, melt, decompose. You try to dry it out a little bit, it powders and breaks off into white powder, also known as effervescence, right? If it's too dry, if the air is too dry, but if it's too cold, like I said, or if it's too wet, then it melts and dissolves. And you have to maintain that stability in that temperature and in the humidity and not have it around any other crystal really much at all. And it has to be airtight in its own case. Never was told any of this when I purchased this. And even mineralogists, geologists have a really, really hard, difficult time maintaining the stability of this specimen. And trying to find information when I realized something was going on with it, trying to find information on it is hard because it's a rare mineral. So it doesn't just come up, right? It was hard to find how to take care of it. I figured out that the problems and the issues, but trying to maintain it in any way, if there was any way to save this thing was a hard process to come by. I finally, I've mentioned them before, but mindat.org finally was able to talk to some of the geologists there who know about cucumbite. But even then, even they were talking about how difficult it is to keep in their own collections. And these are professionals, really highly regarded professionals who know all about the composition and the chemical composition, all of that stuff. Anyways, turns out you can save it. You don't have to do any of that if you use mineral oil. You have to apply mineral oil once in every little bit until it is sufficient enough to keep it stable because of the coating. So I was able, because this started to, melt, and then next it was drying out into powder, then next it started melting again, and so I had to keep applying this mineral oil. Eventually it stabled itself out because there was enough coating of it on it. But because of this, it was all purple, and like I said, I'll try to find a photograph of what it looked like, either this particular piece or the same batch from this place that I got it from. Anyways, so it had none of this orange surrounding it. This is part of the color that came about through the process of it decomposing on me. So I finally got it stabled, but it looks a lot different. And I will try to shine a light so you could see the middle sort of underneath that orangeness, and try to think of it, as looking so vibrant, because it was so pretty when I first got it. But it really fell apart fast. So I really think that the place I purchased this from should have said something, because it had no warning whatsoever, and it was hard to find that information out. So just be aware if you ever see cucumbite coming around and your line of vision and you're thinking about purchasing it, just know that it is an extremely difficult mineral to deal with. Unless you are prepared to watch it like a hawk and apply the mineral oil at the right intervals of time to keep it stabilized. So this is why it hurts my soul. And at least now I can say that I know what to do when it comes to this mineral. Maybe I'll purchase up another piece if I, come across it for sale again. And that way I'll have two comparable pieces to show how it looks when you do it properly and how it looks when you screw up. So this is why this hurts my soul. And that's it for all I've got for you for today. The next part 10, I'll be going through my specimens D through H. So be on the lookout for that. It should be relatively soon coming out. And thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you then. Bye!